Okay, so we're going to start with Sketchpad. We did plate 1. Now we're going to do 2 and 3 in Sketchpad. So again, you open it up. We're going to create a new one. Change it to inches. And we're going to change that to 6. Delete, delete, 6. Color is white background and create. Again, pinch and do that. So we have our 6 by 6. You can put a border on this, but you don't really need to because we're not going to print this at this time. It's only the first one when you had to do your tracings. So we're going to actually need to deal with creating compositions, hopefully more than one, at least 2, to deal with scale, color, and telling a story. And you have to add a special character. So I'm going to use my type tool. And I'm going to use Playfair Display again. It's kind of like a Bodoni. Black is the color. And I'm going to go ahead and put that down and choose the uppercase N this time. I'm going to switch to move and I'm going to make it larger. Try not to make it too large, but you are going to have to deal with scale in this one. So we might go that large, but like I said before, try to add all of your pieces of type on the Sketchpad first before, and then you can lock layers down before you start scaling things. It can get very difficult. So that I definitely know I'm going to use an uppercase N. I also thought through, and you can do a sketching offline on this one too. I'm going to use the special character of the quotation mark. So I want, again, I can start with black. It doesn't really make any difference, but I'm going to add some more type. And this time I'm going to use the special character of a quotation mark. And if I just choose it again, there we go. Do I want a piece of, I think I want a piece of space. I want a space in there. And then I'll close. Whoop, it doesn't think it needs. So that's really interesting. I'm going to get rid of the middle one. So I have a space in between the two. And then I have it. I'm going to check it. Now I'm going to go back to my move tool and I'm going to move it. I do want it smaller than this, kind of like that small. I do want to highlight it. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 quickly. I use the slider bars to change the color. I think I'm going to use like a pinky color, light tone color. I think that's what it's going to be. And the outline is nothing. It's no outline, right? If this was a color, it would give you that. And then it's hard to go back to 0. It doesn't have it. But what you can do is just choose your line width and go to 0. And then there'll be no line stroke anymore. So that we'll just keep that over there. So now you can see I have 2 layers. I'm going to lock that down and I'm going to start to work with the N. I need to make this really large. And again, you might, I think I'm going to just touch off and pinch down. So I have a little bit more of a understanding of how far I can go, right? So the question is, how much of a letter form, how much of the letter and the shapes can you delete and still make it seem like an N? Well, could that be an M? It might be an M. I'm a little unsure. If I move it down, could it be like that? Well, that still could be an M. I'm not sure about that. What if I went like that? Well, there's so much of the letter that's kind of boring. And you also want to kind of create an interesting composition. That's a lot of the letter form. Again, you have to try to take away some. You could go like that. But I think we need to have something at the base to make it seem a little bit better, to give it some grounding. So this actually is pretty good. And I would say I like a nice big scaled item. And then we're going to just give that little serif in the upper right-hand corner there. That's really important to keep. Now, sometimes too in this Sketchpad, you can make that letter form feel a little beefier. I think I want that. Again, go to your properties. We're going to put an outline on, but I don't want it to be linear, radial, or pattern. I want it to be black. And then you can start to play with the line width, right? Too fat starts to remove or delete the beautiful quality of the line. 0, I want a little bit of a beefier part there, but the design of the type is not totally deleted. So I might still put that foot up there a little bit. I still need that foot at the bottom, and I still need that right little serif. So that gives me a nice big scaled item. I think I know this is an N because of the right hand side, the little tick at the top. And then I'm going to lock that back down. I'm going to unlock it of the quotation marks, and I'm going to move these into space, in a space that I think is going to tell a story. So I'm going to move them right about there and then lock it down and take a look. And to me, this story is kind of like this big ominous thing, this person, this place. Maybe it's a house. I don't know. I'm going to just move it a little bit more close right in there. So it's getting some protection. It could be a child. Oops, let's go like that. It just kind of is a really interesting little story, and I want it to be pink and small. Maybe it's a shy thing. So that's one of my ideas for plate 2. Okay, we're going to move on to plate 3. So you're going to make a motif for a pattern. Again, 6x6, color, create. So you need to bring in an image. You needed to collect some images of patterns in nature. Put those into your phone or photo library so that you can use this image, which is called clip art. You can load your own images from your photo library, and I have this pattern right there. I'm going to hit use. So it brings it right in, and oops. And then I can start to analyze the shapes in this pattern to kind of reflect what maybe a letter form, a shape of a letter form might mimic. So I'm going to say maybe a C, could be an O, but I actually think an E might work pretty well. So before I lock this down, I want to add a letter. I'll just make it white to begin with. No outline. Bring that outline all the way back down. I'm not going to use play fair display. I'm going to change it up. And I'm going to try to find one that's really round, like very, we could try this comforta. I'll give it a try. It might not be beefy enough. I think it's going to be too thin. So I'm not going to try that. I'm going to try something else. I don't want something tall like Oswald. I don't want an E that's on an angle like Josephine. Let's try Volcorn. And that's looking pretty good. So let's try the E. And again, you just have to look at the letter forms and the shapes to determine if this is what you want. Now, it doesn't come bold, but I can add a stroke. But before I do that, I want to kind of make it bigger. So we're going to make it bigger. And there it goes again. Kind of crazy. Just be patient with it. So that's one. And now I'm going to start to turn it. I know what's going on. See? Even I make mistakes, right? So what you want to do, which I haven't done, is go back to my arrow key, which is my move tool. There we go. So now I won't draw. So I'm going to make this bigger, and I'm going to rotate it. But before I do that, again in Sketchpad, well, I'm going to make 3 of them. So I'm 1, 2, 3 for the nautilus shells. So I'm going to take this, use the circles, duplicate, move it, duplicate, and move it. So I'm going to go back and lock it down. This one, I'm going to lock it down. And this one, I'm going to lock down my picture. So now I just have this one, and I can start to use that and make it bigger, much bigger, and rotate it. So maybe the rotation is kind of like that, somewhere in that vicinity. I'm going to lock that down. And you're making a motif, so you don't have to go all the way to the edges. So lock it down, pick another, which is this one, make it bigger. You want to I mean, it's your motif, so you can decide if you want it the same size. I'm going to relatively make these the same size. Pinch it down a little bit so I can see what's going on here. Right about that. I need to rotate that maybe like that. Move this over here. And again, where things touch, let's see, make that a little smaller. Right there. And lock it down. I'm going to go back to this one. And we're going to make this bigger. This bigger. I'm going to rotate it. Now you don't want all your rotations to be the same. You want some difference in there, which is good. And then lock that one down. I'll go back to the first one and maybe make this one just a little smaller, right about there. And then again, lock it down. Turn off your picture. I gotta unlock it, turn it off. Now I can't see my text, so I have to turn it back on and start to work with the colors first. So again, on this one, you needed either a monochromatic, a complementary, or an analogous color scheme. I am going to use an analogous color scheme because I'm paying attention to to the actual picture. So again, I choose one, I go to the properties. I'm going to choose a pink color. And my outline is black. I don't want that. Make sure it's 0, which it is. Go back and lock it. Go to the next one, unlock it. And then go to the properties. And I want it to be like a melon color. Again, make sure the line width is 0. And lock it. Go to the last one. And go to the properties. And I'm going to choose an orangey-ish one, right? And again, the line is 0, and then you lock it down. Now I can turn the clip art off, and we can start to see the motif, right? So there's a little bit of clipping on the right-hand side. I could be really fussy and unlock them all, and then this like scooch that over, right? Scooch that over. This is where it gets hard because you have to try to, there we go. And you have to unlock and lock. All right. So now I have my motif, and then you have to pay attention to the negative and positive spaces. So I like how that's touching in most spots, but there's a little negative space that's happening there. That's going to become a problem when it becomes a pattern, and you'll see. So I want to make sure all of my things are touching as we proceed to the next part. So here we are. Here's the motif. How do you save this out? You save it. You go to the little file on the left-hand side, download a JPEG. You could call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. You download it, and then we're going to put it in our photo. So you have to go back to the file folder, and it's called Drawing 3. We share it out. We save the image, and it goes right into our folder of photos. So it should be right there, and there it is. So now we'll work on Adobe Capture making a pattern.